What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home here at fakepigskin.com. With me to break down the 2021 NASCAR season. It is back. We are here to talk all about it. It's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's up, Kyle? We were just talking pre-show about how excited I am for NASCAR, which is something that I never thought that I would ever be talking about as I get older here.
Yeah, it grabbed us last year, for sure. Obviously, we talked a lot of NASCAR last year with a glaring lack of pretty much seemingly anything at that point. And we had a lot of fun with it. Obviously, we talked a lot of races, and betting and kind of ways to attack the races by driver and whatnot. We're back for a full season. This is obviously our season preview. The show's going to look a little different in terms of Brian and I are going to dive in to the DFS space as well. Give you guys not necessarily lineups, but a couple drivers we like for the week, some of our core plays, that kind of stuff. So we're going to try and do a mix of betting and DraftKings, DFS. So it should be a fun season. But Brian, we have a lot to get into. There's a lot going on, and I want to jump into it. So I'm thinking off the hop, we talk about some of these driver changes because there's a lot going on. And I think from and we can obviously talk how we're going to attack it in the betting market because I think it's going to be interesting. But let's just talk about some of the moves. So first, Kyle Larson is back. There was he was suspended for last year. Definitely warranted for the comments that he made. But he is back. He is joining Hendrick Motorsports. He'll be riding in the number 5 car. From a talent standpoint, this guy has a lot to be desired. There's a lot of talent there. He's a guy who's performed well at some of our big tracks. I have a feeling we will be betting on him and playing him in DraftKings throughout the season. I am curious to see the numbers and if there's a just assumption that he's the same guy, or if there's maybe some opportunities early in the season to take advantage of maybe some missed prices. But what is your expectation for Larson heading to Hendrick and kind of getting a shot to take over this year?
I mean, I hate backing a guy who used the kind of language that he did last season. And like you said, totally warranted that he was released from his contract. But that being said, we're just looking at this from a perspective of betting and or DFS angle. And this is a guy, like you said, who the talent is just, it's so apparent, being that this guy, like in pretty much every season that he's ran, his average finish is like around the 12 to 14 mark. He was coming off of a season where, he had only had 1 win, but he had 8 top 5s, 17 top 10s. He has 15 or more top 10s. He had 15 or more top 10s in 4 consecutive years. He was almost double-digit top 5 finishes in every single season. And this guy is now stepping into the same vehicle that Alex Bowman was running last year. And, as good as Alex Bowman is, he's still a pretty young driver who probably isn't as polished as what Kyle Larson is in terms of his skill set. So, I mean, this guy's stepping into a team that, is tremendous talent around him with Bowman and the defending champion Chase Elliott here. So, I mean, we're looking at a guy who has the potential to be a really sneaky play early on in the year as the sites, DraftKings and FanDuel are trying to adjust their prices for him from a DFS perspective. And early on in the season, when you're looking at potential winners in these races, I mean, this guy is going to be a long shot, and he'll probably be somebody I'm backing early this year.
Yeah, I'm curious. I think I'm going to jump in early and at least take some shots places that he's had success. Obviously, when you get into a different car, there's some learning, there's some other stuff, but there's also opportunities to jump into a better car, a car that traditionally does better at certain tracks. So I'm going to be looking at some of the places where Alex Bowman was successful last year and see if I can't find ways to merge his production and the way Alex Bowman produced. And I think that's what we're going to have to do with a lot of these drivers, especially ones that are stepping up in a big way. And I think Christopher Bell deserves some attention this year. Obviously had an interesting rookie year in 2020. Now he's going to Joe Gibbs Racing. He's stepping into a really nice spot. A place where Matt DiBenedetto had a lot of success when he made the similar switch. I think, he's not necessarily a guy that we look at from a kind of, oh, is he going to win the race? How high can he finish type thing. Like I think he's going to be interesting for DFS for sure. But I could see him sneaking up and grabbing some top fives, maybe even a win. Especially in I could look at like top fives and top tens with him, maybe at some decent prices, knowing that his car is going to be so much better this year. And I think he could take tremendous strides.
Yeah, Christopher Bell was a guy who, late last year we started to kind of hit on him on our shows as terms of like a good value play. And when you look at the way he finished the 2020 season, he had 4 straight finishes inside the top 17 with his average finish the last 4 races was around 12th. So this was a guy that really came on strong late in the year, and now he's taking that step up into where, we saw Matt DiBenedetto do really well when he was able to take the similar kind of jump. And, so this guy's a really talented driver. He's going to get better equipment. Last year we fell into the trap of Daniel Suarez's history without realizing that he went into a worse vehicle. And now, so we did a little deeper diving into these guys in terms of like the rides that they'll be in. And, somebody like Bell, who's getting a better car, should be able to improve his finishing and the way where he runs. And this is kind of a guy you're going to take advantage of early in the year too.
Yeah, I think you're going to get some nice numbers on him because I think he is talented, but getting the bonus into the nicer car, into the better car, into Joe Gibbs has so much history in NASCAR. I'm really excited to see how everything pans out. Speaking of how I'm excited to see things pan out, let's talk Bubba Wallace making the switch. 23XI Racing, Michael Jordan's new racing team. Bubba Wallace is the face, along with Denny Hamlin, right? Denny Hamlin is the other guy that ran. Yeah. So interesting move. Bubba obviously had his moments last year, had some races where he looked awesome, had some races where things didn't go very well. From a betting standpoint, I think he's going to be one that I'm going to have to be patient with. And it's not because of his talent, it's because of the car, because the brand new racing team. I'm really curious to see how quickly Jordan and Hamlin can get that team going and get the car where it needs to be. So it's competing for top 10s, top 5s, and eventually, race wins every single week.
Yeah, I think Bubba Wallace is one of the most intriguing, driver changes of this upcoming year, being that he's going from, the Kings crew down here to friggin' the GOATs crew and Michael Jordan's racing team. And, it's going to be a big name thing. It's Michael Jordan. He's going to have money, the backing. They're going to have the sponsors. So they're probably going to have the money to be able to put into these vehicles. And Bubba Wallace did have his best season yet as a driver. But like you said, it'll be interesting to see the way these guys mesh early on in the year, and to see with, this being a brand new team for them, and Wallace is unfamiliar with this car and this team, to see how he fares early on in the year. But I do expect him to be a guy that about halfway through the season kind of hits his stride. And I do think he'll be running very similarly, if not better than what we saw him do last season.
Yeah, I think this year will look a lot like last year, where he'll pop at certain tracks and things will look like they're running really well, and then other tracks will have more struggles and the car won't quite have the same same finish. I think he'll be somebody that I'll be more interested in from a betting standpoint and less from a DFS standpoint, where those placement points, those laps led, all that stuff is so important in DFS, where if he has a car issue and that's out of his control, that's going to really kill you. But if you bet him to pop in an outright market, especially, I think he has the skill, and if the car comes together the right week, for him to really put something together and have an amazing week and win a race at a 30-1, a 40-1, whatever his price tag may be that week. So I think that's kind of how I'm going to play him initially. Now, if he comes out the gate, looks hot, he's getting all these top fives, then obviously I'll be changing my tune a little bit, but I think it's something that will make a lot of sense. The last major move that I want to hit on is Erik Jones, who is going to Richard Petty Motorsports and taking the 43 vacated by Bubba Wallace. This is a guy we like a lot, Brian, a big fan of last year. We were backing him consistently. He was performing well. Unfortunately, it looks like he it's kind of weird how the musical chairs, the rotation as of different drivers, and this guy ends up here and this guy ends up here. Erik Jones got bumped from a situation where it seemed like he was performing well enough to keep his seat, and then ended up in a position where I don't know. There's question marks about kind of how hot. What is elite for him? What could that be if is he more apparently just going to be more of a middle of the pack kind of guy? But I'm excited to see what he can do, and hopefully him and RPM can get that car going the right way, and he can get back to his winning ways in 2021.
Yeah, Erik Jones was one of my favorite drivers last year, and talking about that going to Richard Petty Racing here, he's taking over for Bubba Wallace, and like I talked about with Bubba, is that Wallace ran really well last year with, I guess, an inferior car to a lot of the, higher echelon teams. And Erik Jones, we saw him perform admirably well. I know he was kind of disappointing, I guess. He didn't have a victory, but he still had 9 top 5s, 13 top 10s to continue his streak of, 13 or more top 10s in 4 straight years and 9 or more top 5s in 3 straight years. So this is a guy, he's a good driver. He'll be basically the sole focus of this team this season. So I do think that he'll be able to perform pretty well, very, very similar to the way that he did. But like you said, it'll be interesting to see early on with him making this change. And we're referencing an article from Number Fire. They hit on this, and it's very respectable to think about this, is that Erik Jones does have kind of a recognizable name, and he does perform pretty well, especially in DFS markets where he was starting like middle of the pack in the 20s, and then he was getting those jumps in finishing. So his price will probably be up early. So he's probably not somebody that I'll be looking to play very early on in the season. But much like Wallace, I think there are spots where he'll be able to pop and potentially win races, top 3s, top 5s.
Yeah, Jim Saunis over at Number Fire did a great job kind of breaking down all the moves. So if you want to go in a little more depth and kind of get it at a DFS angle, I would check that out. We'll tweet it out from the show account and from our personal account, so you guys can check it out as well. As I'll drop it in the notes below the video, so you guys can go check it out, because it is really important to kind of get an idea of how some of this is going to pan out. It is interesting too, Brian. We have some young guys. Obviously, Christopher Bell making his full season on the big boys, but we also have I was just looking at it. Where'd it go? Bear with me for a second.
Well, we have Alex Bowman taking over for Jimmy Johnson.
We do have Alex Bowman. Let's talk about that before we get back, because I want to talk Cole Custer. I want to talk Chance Briscoe, and Tyler Reddick, all making full jumps. But Alex Bowman, what do we think about him jumping in the wheel behind the 48?
I mean, obviously, it's kind of like an up. I guess it's a promotion in terms of his standing within the team now that Jimmy Johnson is gone. And if there's any sort of upgrade in equipment than what he saw last season, I think this is a guy that could potentially compete for, one of those last playoff spots going into the Final Four next year. I mean, he's a really good driver. We saw him this year. He competed at the top of the game. He finished, I think, 5th or 6th in the standings this last season. And now he's getting a Jimmy Johnson's old ride and, similar crew. So I think this is a guy to watch out for if you're looking at futures and long odds for guys that could potentially compete for a championship.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last year. We were big Erik Jones and Eric Almirola and Alex Bowman guys. Those were our trio. Didn't always work out, but there was lots of weeks where they came through in a big way for us, and I'm really excited to see how his season kind of pans out and what it looks like in the 48. And because that was a car that, even as Jimmy Johnson was kind of getting older and fading as from a talent standpoint, was still able to produce some nice finishes. So really excited to see how that goes. So I'm really interested to see some of these young guys too. As I mentioned, I just had it. Oh, Chance Briscoe, Tyler Reddick, Cole Custer, and Christopher Bell. I think these guys could all be really interesting from a DFS standpoint. Maybe even get some nice numbers on them that make it a lot more easily, kind of insertable in your lineups. It will also be interesting this year because the schedule is kind of set up already, and we're not going to have so many two week races because we're trying to make up, and we're not going to have so many like Saturdays and then Sundays, and then there's a lot more consistency, so it should help us not only recording the show. So our plan is to record Thursday nights. Hopefully we have all the information we need, and we'll post it Fridays. We might do some more of the betting on Thursday if we don't have starting positions and stuff. So be aware. What I would do and highly suggest is you subscribe to our channel, you turn on a little bell notification, you'll know when our videos get posted. And then if you're enjoying what we're doing, mash that thumbs up. It really does do a lot. If you have friends that like NASCAR, that like betting on NASCAR, playing NASCAR DFS, please share the show around. Let them know, hey, check this out. It's really worth checking out, and we'll try and keep it not super long, so you guys can get your information, get in, get out, have fun, and hopefully win some money this season. That would be nice. We're not pretending to be NASCAR experts by any means, but we definitely do our research. We definitely are making these bets and playing these DFS ourselves. So if you'd like to hop on, if you'd like to ride the wave, you're more than welcome to do so. Brian, with that being said, let's talk some championship odds. I think we have, some interesting names to kind of look at here from a future standpoint. Obviously, Chase Elliott is the favorite at playing on 5.5 to 1, basically, plus 550. Kevin Harvick right there, Denny Hamlin right behind him, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano. Your favorite. I can't wait to bring him up each and every week so you get excited. But from like if we're looking at it a long term, obviously it's interesting, right? Because like last year, Kevin Harvick was so dominant, won so many races, and you can actually bet most races won. Now, I think in most years it'll probably work out where the guy who wins the most races will definitely be in that conversation. And he ended up missing that final cutoff and didn't get to compete for the championship, which is wild.
Yeah.
Considering how impressive he was all year long. But is there any numbers that are jumping out to you that you think there might be value here, or I might be willing to throw, 10 or 20 bucks on to see how this goes?
I mean, you can't help but take notice of even the defending champ, Chase Elliott, at 5.5 to 1. You don't normally get those kind of long odds for a guy who is coming off of a season-long win. If you're looking at like football odds, a lot of times it's the favorite is 2 to 1, or even sometimes less than that when looking at who has the potential to win the championship. So I know there's a lot more stuff that could occur during a NASCAR season, but I think, like, for me, the number that I'm really looking at, again, I'm going to go back to him. It's kind of gross, but Kyle Larson sitting at 9 to 1. I mean, getting the ride that he's in and knowing the kind of success that he's had, I think he makes for a great future. And then the aforementioned Alex Bowman at 25 to 1. I mean, that's great odds. Even if you're going to put like 10, 20 bucks on him and for a season long bet, I'm pretty sure that would be worth it for the potential of him taking home the prize.
Yeah, I think Christopher Bell, William Byron, and Alex Bowman all kind of get my attention when we're getting down there, just because they have the potential to pop if everything comes together, and they're in rides that really interest you. Kyle Busch is somebody that had a very frustrating 2020. If he puts it back together and gets back kind of the way he was, prior to that, he's a guy that I feel like at 7 to 1 right now could provide some nice value that, from a talent standpoint, from, his car is ready to win. It just, for some reason or another, last year just didn't really work out for them. So I would be interested to maybe potentially jump in at that price and see if we can get some decent value there.
Yeah, one thing that I did want to note real quick. I mean, this will obviously be the first year that I bet on like championships or who's going to finish top 3 here in NASCAR. When looking at the odds here, because they also have top 3 odds, and I find it interesting that you have the top 7 guys that are all inside of 2-1. Now, those are not numbers that I would be looking at betting for a season-long wager. I would be looking at those guys lower down on the list here, because once they get into the playoffs, it's going to be on a race by race basis. And all it's going to take is, an accident or just a guy going crazy on a track who sneaks into the top 3, like a Christopher Bell, like a William Byron, like a Matt DiBenedetto or an Alex Bowman, so I think those are a little bit more interesting than betting those longer shots as the potential champion, because I think there is a good likelihood that one of those guys sneaks into the top 3.
I think that's a great call. I like Bowman at plus 650. I like Ryan Blaney at 3-1. I think is really interesting. He obviously flashed a lot at during the restart last year. I think makes a lot of sense. And if you like some of these younger drivers, if you like William Byron, if you like Christopher Bell, betting them top 3. I know it's not as nice of a number. I'd rather have 50-1 than 12-1 or whatever. But the odds of them finishing top 3 is much higher. And maybe they're not ready to win the championship this year, but maybe they pop in a big way and really get their name in the conversation. And all of a sudden at the end of the year, we're talking about them kind of being right there. So I think that's a great way to attack it all also. Okay, Brian, before we get out of here, we've talked some drivers, we've talked overall, we've talked some season-long betting. Let's just take a quick look at the Daytona 500 odds. And this is all of our odds are via DraftKings Sportsbook, by the way. That's just where we get numbers from. It's easy to find. They tend to have a lot of good stuff. Throughout the season, we'll try and mix in some Will Hill, some FanDuel, whatever it happens to be. If you want specific odds, drop it in the comments, and we'll do our best to kind of work those in. To give you guys an example, because if everyone here doesn't have access to DraftKings, but everyone has access to Will Hill, we'll use those numbers as our baseline, and then obviously throw in some DK numbers based upon that. Early look, Daytona 500. We got Denny Hamlin at 7-1, Chase Elliott 9-1, Blaney, Keselowski both at 11, Harvick, Busch 13 and 14 respectively, and then a whole bunch of guys at 18-1. Brian, where's your head at for this one, and kind of expectations for who might take down the initial race to start the year?
I mean, you can't help but see that number with Denny Hamlin. I mean, he's by far the most successful guy. He has 3 wins, and the next closest people, they're all tied with 1. So, I mean, that clearly is representative of why he has such good odds. I like Martin Truex Jr. here at 18-1. He was a guy that we rode a lot last season. He has
Marty.
He has like the 4th best average finish at this track at 19th or around there. I really like, this is kind of weird, but I would be looking even lower down there. Bubba Wallace, who in 7 races here at Daytona, he has 2 top 5s and 2 top 10s. Who's to say that this 23-11 team isn't trying to propel Bubba into more of a starring role this season, and they put more effort into his car for this opening race, knowing that Denny Hamlin's racing abilities are going to be able to get over the hump more so than what Bubba is. So I like him at like 66-1 to win this as like a long shot bet too.
So I'm looking at Erik Jones, and I'm putting kind of pieces together as we talked about. I'm trying to find his odds. He's 50-1 right now. He has had success at Daytona. He has a win. He has 2 top 5s. He's also jumping into the aforementioned Bubba Wallace ride, and could be in a nice spot where you're aligning a car that has done well at a track and a driver who has done well at a track, and maybe they come together. And like right now, like 50-1. Like, are you kidding me? I know there's some question marks about him, but even if at like top 3, 11-1, like I feel like there's value there, and I feel like you could jump in at a nice number.
Yeah, that's I mean that's a great spot, and you know that especially for the opening race, and we talked about it last year in these super speedways. All bets are
Your
off.
dogs are not happy with my pick. They're not having it.
Sorry, folks, they're locked inside for being diggers. But yeah, like at these super speedways, all bets are off. It's all about pedal to the metal. There's so much that can happen at these tracks. Little nicks and these cars go flying. So this is why I would lean on the side of the long shots more so than the guys at the top of the board here.
Yep. I don't hate that at all. And I think jumping on kind of the mid to late odds right now is a great idea. And I think because you like the idea that, come race day or come that, the couple days before, you're not going to be able to get, Chase Elliott at a 9-1 or Denny Hamlin at 7-1. Like, I feel like you'll be able to get, maybe you don't get 7-1, maybe it gets plus 650, but like you'll get a good decent number. I am excited to see some of the kind of like the duels and the whatnot before Daytona, but obviously Daytona is February 14th. So we'll be here, Thursday, Friday before Daytona to break down that race. And then, and we'll be just rolling along. We've got the road course again this year. We're going to be rolling through all these different races, getting prepped, from a betting standpoint, from a DFS standpoint. So, Brian and I will have you covered across the board. I think that's going to be it. Brian, was there anything else before we get out of here?
I would just like to say for anybody that's like new to the show and maybe this is the first time you've heard us talk about NASCAR, like even if it's not something that you think you'd be interested in, just make one DFS lineup, make one bet, and then sit back on a Sunday afternoon and check out a race, and you will see why like it becomes something that is enjoyable because you're able to just kind of do what you're doing while having it on in the background without needing to just devote all of your attention to what's going on.
Yep. I think fantasy NASCAR and fantasy golfer are two ways that are kind of niche ways to kind of track stuff. I like the idea of if you don't have a full Sunday, you don't have 4 hours to sit down and watch the whole race. Keep an eye on it on the app. The app is great. And then the last, 20 laps, 30 laps, jump in, watch see how your guys are doing throughout the day. Be ready for wild swings in DFS, but it's worth it. It's so much fun. And then, hopefully your drivers finish strong, win some cash. Don't go too crazy, but you could jump in and you can get some nice numbers on these guys. So I'm with you 100% there, Brian. All right, so we will be back on next Thursday to break down our official Daytona bets. We'll find some head-to-heads. We'll find some top fives, top threes, that kind of stuff, and get you guys hopefully some winners so we can watch the first race of the season, win some money together, and keep it rolling all season long. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to y'all next.